Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is inflation. More specifically, I want to talk about how the price was right back in the day. If you've lived a little bit, you know, obviously, the cost of living has gone up. Things that used to cost very little now cost a lot. And what's always interesting about inflation and prices going up on things is that everything seems to be going up as far as prices are concerned, except salaries. Everything is going up except salaries. So I came across this meme on Twitter, I think. Or maybe it was I think it was Instagram. I think it was definitely Instagram. I came across this meme and it, was talking about what the prices were back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm going to take it back 40 years to 1985. Now, some of you were just really, really small in 1985. And there may be a few of you who weren't even around in 1985. Bless your heart. Your boy, 12 Kyle, in 1985, that would have been the year that I turned 13 in December of 1985. So I was 12, 13 for most of the year. Nonetheless, I remember 1985 like it was yesterday. So it doesn't, when I say that it's been 40 years, it doesn't feel like it's been 40 years, right? So with that being said, what I want to do is just kind of compare and contrast how far we've come, or how actually far we haven't come as far as inflation is concerned, and just some of the things that cost back then, how much it cost then as opposed to what it costs now. Now, again, when you have a 40-year gap, there's going to be a huge difference, but I came across this meme and I wanted to have a little fun with this episode, so indulge me, if you will. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. I definitely appreciate you all tuning in as you do each and every week. First up, and these are in no particular order, how much do you think a new house would cost in the year of 1985? Well, I have the answer. In 1985, the average cost of a new house was $89,330. Not a lot of money, relatively speaking. But if you were alive in 1985 and you were coming off the heels of Reaganomics, that was a lot of money. Everybody couldn't afford a crib. And I think, we had a house in 1985. Maybe I should ask my mom how much our house cost. It wasn't $89,000. I can tell you that right now. Not in my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. But the average cost of a new house was $89,330. Now, if you compare that to 40 years later, 2025, the average cost of a new house that you're building would be $336,000. And that's just for the state of Georgia where I live. I live in Metro Atlanta. I didn't do the national search, but I mean, I'm pretty sure if I did the national search, it's probably about the same. So suffice to say, it's not, it's quite expensive to build a house from the ground up. Now, full disclosure, I have a house. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm in my house. We did not build this house from the ground up. There's a difference in pricing when you have a custom built house as opposed to a house that's, built like the other houses in your area or subdivision, what have you. But that's if you're building from the ground up. So what I want to do is flip it to the median price of an existing home, meaning if you had a house that was already built and that someone was going to purchase in 1985, that house would cost $75,500. That's the median price of a house that was already built, not one that you built yourself. Conversely, in 2025, the median price for an existing home is $414,000. It's not cheap. And again, that's the median. So now you have houses that can cost significantly less, and then you have houses for some of my friends, like King Germ from Podden Saved Our Marriage. The man lives in a mansion, right? So I don't even know how much he paid for his house. I mean, houses, I should say, because he's got quite a few. But that's another story for another day. Now, we obviously, I mentioned earlier, if we're talking about houses and we're talking about spending, then how you want to know how much people made back then. Back in 1985, the average salary for the average American citizen was $22,100, which was a little bit more than what I make right now. $22,100. In 2025, the average salary across the board is $39,982. As you can see, salaries have increased, but when you think about the cost of living, I mean, that's still not enough. And I'll be honest, and I say this all the time, there are certain jobs, there are certain professions that, really should be making a whole lot more money, that like teachers, for instance. I don't think the teacher should make any less than $115,000 a year. And I'm being honest when I say that, because it takes a lot to teach children. Most of you cannot and will not teach any children, including your own. So teachers are vastly underpaid. And could there be teachers out there that make $115,000 a year? I don't know. I never looked it up, but either way, they're still underpaid. We pay top dollar to see our favorite athletes run up and down the field or swing a bat or bounce a basketball. But I think, we should neutralize some of that money that we pay and pay our educators. But maybe that's another episode. Now let's go to rent. As my man said a couple of years ago, the rent's too damn high. The average rent in 1985 was $375. Wow. $375 for rent. Which is amazing, because if you follow the podcast, you know that I got my first apartment here in Metro Atlanta on my own. Well, actually, it was my second apartment that I got, because my first apartment I got with my boy Jay Fresh. Shout out to Jay Fresh. Jay Fresh and I got a townhouse in Marietta, but I moved to Decatur, where it's greater, and got me a apartment, 1-bedroom apartment on Candler Road, across from the South DeKalb Mall. So if you're familiar with Atlanta or Metro Atlanta, or if you're familiar with Decatur, you know that's the hood. Not the rap hood, but the hood. And I talked about it on an episode, but my rent, that was 1998. My rent then was $425. And I loved every minute of it. I've never paid any rent that low ever. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, man, it was a lot of fun, but it was in the hood. And I didn't really see it as the hood, but after I left, I was like, oh, you know what? You were in the hood. I had to kind of tell myself that. But yeah, that's the difference. I mean, $375 in 1985. And then, like I said, in 1998, I paid $425 for rent. rent in 2025, the average rent across the board is $1,625. $1,625 for rent. The rent is too damn hot. And speaking as someone who has rented a place here recently, my rent was higher than that. So no, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Shout out to people who, are renting. I will say this: rent until you get to the point where you can afford to purchase a home. And then some people don't want to buy homes. I get that part of it too. But the rent is just it is a ripoff to the 10th power. But that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. Let's see what else we got here. Cars. Now, everybody, you didn't necessarily have to have a whip back in the day, but 85, most of the people that I knew had cars, and those who didn't have cars had means of transportation. Maybe they caught the bus, maybe they walked, maybe they rode a bike. The average price for a new car in 1985 was. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle Podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle Podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. As $9,005. The price was right. Can you imagine paying $9,000 for a brand new car? That's crazy. I wish I could pay $9,000 for a brand new car right now. I'd have one car. Let me stop. But yeah, that was the average price back then. Fast forward to 2025, the average price for a brand new car is $48,400, which is probably what a lot of you have paid for cars, particularly if you bought them recently. Car prices are through the roof. I mean, and just depending on where you live, unless you live in a big metropolitan city, you're probably going to need transportation to get around. You're probably going to need a car. I know that we have car services like Uber and Lyft and things of that nature. I know that we have that, but yeah, you're going to need a car in 2025. It doesn't matter if it's your car or someone else's car. You're going to need a car to get around. But yeah, that's crazy. That is a crazy jump from 40 years. What about gas? The price of a gallon of gas in 1985 was $1.09. In 2025, it's $2.90 for regular. And then if you buy premium, $3.34, which is crazy. And the only thing that I could think of when I think about gas is when I first moved to Atlanta, the gas here was 99 cents a gallon. I just remember, man, I could fill up my car for like $12, and I could ride and just burn up all my gas like how I wanted to. We will never see gas prices that low again. Unfortunately, I think the lowest that I remember the gas being was sometime during the Obama administration. Gas had gotten down to like $1.48. I don't think gas will ever get that low either, because it's supply and demand. And right now, the supply is there, the demand is there, but they also know that they're going to make profits hand over fist. So unless you're producing your own oil, you're at everyone else's mercy. So it is what it is. What about going to the movies? Back in the day, a movie ticket in 1985 was $2.75. Man, listen, in 85, that was a lot of money for a kid like me. Again, I'm 12, 13 years old. But, and I didn't have a job, but I could get $3 from my mom. I felt pretty confident in saying that. But the flip side of it is, in 2025, the average price ticket for a movie is $16.08. That's a lot. And that's a lot when you consider what you get when you go to the movies. Because here's the thing. When you go to the movie theater these days, the ticket isn't as expensive, but it's everything else in between. Like my wife and I recently saw the movie Sinners, which is an incredibly dope movie. And I think I probably paid about $18 for the tickets. The tickets for us to get into the movie theater, 2 tickets. But, once we got in and we got popcorn and we got pizza and we got candy, it was like $1,000 inside the movie theater. So, the ticket price isn't as expensive as it once was, but no, they're going to get their money's worth. And I know, a lot happened after COVID. A lot of movie theaters didn't open back up. But yeah, it's still, they're going to get that bread one way or the other. It doesn't matter. Another price that I saw that was very interesting was the cost of a postage stamp. I don't know who out there actually buys stamps. I'll be honest, I haven't purchased a stamp. Man, I don't think I purchased a stamp in the last 20 years. It's been that long. I mean, because I don't mail anything. The bills that I pay them electronically, and I'm not mailing any letters because I have email. So, but in 1985, the cost of a postage stamp was 22 cents, which sounds about right, because I think by the time I got to college at South Carolina State University, I do remember I do remember getting stamps because I would mail letters to my friends and my mom. And I remember the cost of stamp, I think, was like 25 cents. So it was a quarter. But yeah, I don't even remember stamps, costing as much as they do now, which according to 2025, the cost of a postage stamp is 78 cents. That is crazy work. Who in their right mind came up with that idea that a stamp should cost 78 cents? I speak this with a level of ignorance because I don't know. I don't mail anything, so I don't know when the price went up. I'm sure it's been a gradual climb, but 78 cents for a stamp is wild to me. It is so wild. And you want to hear something even wilder? The cost of bacon. If you're like me and you enjoy the fine taste of a slice of bacon by the pound in 1985 was $1.65. $1.65 in 1985 for a pound of bacon. In 2025, the average cost for a pound of bacon is $7. And I know this to be true because I just paid $21 for some bacon just yesterday. 3 packs. And the 3 packs tend to go very fast in my house. I can't tell you why, man, but they're killing us. And it's like, you try to find alternatives, but personally, for me, I like bacon, and I think it goes well with most breakfast meals. But man, $7. And to be honest, that's just the average. I've seen bacon as high as $10 per pound, which is preposterous. You shouldn't have to spend $10 on some bacon, but that's another story for another day. Speaking of food, back in 85, a ribeye steak would cost you $3.89 per pound, which back then was very expensive. But today, a ribeye steak in 2025 is going to cost you $18 per pound. So you do the math. If you go to a restaurant, you probably aren't going to spend anything less than $70 for a ribeye, a decent sized ribeye. I know because I like to get a ribeye when I go to steaks from time to time. There's a lot of different steakhouses, particularly here in the city, that I like to try. I don't mind paying it, but it's still a lot, relatively speaking. But I don't do it like it's not like I go to steakhouses every week, So it comes in different times or whatever, but it's like, no, I'm not. That's a lot. It really is. All in all, I just wanted to try this out because it's been a long time since 1985. We've been through a lot financially, but like I said, the thing that gets frustrating is like everything is going up except salaries. And so people have to decide on what they will do and what they won't do. And then they have to figure out financially where they should or shouldn't cut corners. It's really up to the individual, but as you get older, and then if you're like me and you have a family, you have to make these decisions and you have to make them, very cautiously and carefully because money is tight. It doesn't matter how much you make, you're still constantly spending. So make sure that you spend your money wisely. That's the only advice I can give anybody is spend your money wisely. I would never tell people how to spend their money. But the price was right back in 85. Somehow, some way, I wish we could create a time machine and just go back, at least for a couple of days, so we can save a couple of dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. If you're a music fan, be sure to check out our new baby. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is a place where we have musical discussions about music, rap music, hip hop, R&B, soul music from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Trust me, it's the best music podcast that you've never heard. So check it out. We drop new episodes every Monday and every Friday. You can check out me on social media, 12 Kyle Podcast across the board. We're on YouTube, as I mentioned a little earlier, youtube.com, 12 Kyle Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe there as well. We also have merch. If you look in the comment box, there's a description that says merch. Click that link and you can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. You can also hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle Podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle Podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.